Good afternoon and welcome to TalkSports. It's our Saturday sports program, our weekly program, where we speak to the movers and shakers of sports, the sportsmen, sportswomen, administrators, coaches, just about everyone involved in sports. Well, as indicated, our special guest this weekend is a special guest, yes. First time on our program is Mr. David Shakes Christopher. He is currently the chef de mission of the St Lucia team at the Pan American Games taking place in Santiago, Chile. He's also the president of the St Lucia Boxing Association. Well, Mr. Christopher was invited to the program and he immediately accepted the invitation to speak on a number of issues as it relates to the Pan Am Games in particular, because as the chef de mission, he has probably a bird's eye view of the participation of our competitors, not just from St. Lucia, but from the entire region in particular. And his interest has been in part the lack of preparation as it appears, but we'll hear more from Mr. Shakes. He will be able to explain in detail of some of our competitors in some of the events at the Pan American Games. For some, they don't think that they take the Pan American Games that serious, even though it's used as a qualifier for the Olympic Games. As you recall, the Olympic Games in Paris is less than 1 year. So most of the competitors, either for qualification or in some form of readiness or preparation for the Paris Olympics. So he had some concerns because he looked at the performances of some of the competitors and he will zero in a bit on boxing because I think there was some concern in particular with some of the boxers from the Caribbean. I say some because he will also explain that there were those who were a little above the par, okay? And you can see that their level of preparation, their readiness, etc., was more so better than others. But we will hear from Mr. David Christopher. He's known in the sporting world as Shakes, you know, but let me introduce to you Mr. Christopher. And I said, good afternoon to you, Mr. Christopher, live from Santiago, Chile. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, my brother. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to the world. Good afternoon to everyone who tuned in to this program. It's a pleasure being here. And hope we have a very successful show this evening.
Right. Glad to hear that, Mr. Christopher, as he removes his credentials. As you know, he's a busy man, and he's getting all the little instructions in the background, you know, getting himself ready. But nice to have you on the program.
My minister want to go to my room, so I just give him the keys. The minister is here also with me.
Oh, the minister is there. Okay, then.
Yeah, so he's going back to me, yeah.
Right. That's Mr. Kenson, right?
Kenson Casimir, yeah.
Casimir, right. Mr. Kenson Casimir, himself a former journalist himself, involved in the media, I would say. So, hopefully I get Mr. Casimir sometime in the future. But as we say, how are things with let's talk about St. Lucia in particular, St. Lucia's participation and performance at the Pan American Games?
Well, St. Lucia participation went well. We came here with 4 athletes. We had 1 swimmer in Gian Odlum. He swam the 100 butterfly and 103. Other personal best. He didn't really make it to the second round. He didn't really qualify as a natural qualifier. We get him inside there as one of the what we call complimentary spot. We had sailing in Luc Chevrier, one of the best in the region, just won a bronze at the last games in Cali, Colombia. He's placed 10th overall. The laser, he did the laser. He placed 10th overall and 4th for the region. For the region, we had 2 qualifiers in the Puerto Rico and Aruba. They qualify for Paris right now. So Luke will have to go back to the drawing board and try again the other events coming up so he can make the qualification mark. His aim out there, his whole aim out there was to qualify, make the qualifying mark, The condition wasn't too too friendly down there. It was really cold down in the satellite village down there. Very cold some days. We had one day where they had to postpone the sailing, and then we had another day when they had to do three races one day. It was really tough going down there. Most of the competitors down there were complaining of the conditions. You know, Chile is a chilly place, so this time of the year you can see all the mountains, all the snow in the mountains presently right now. Today we have good weather. The weather here kind of freaky, sometimes nice, sometimes cold. In the evening it can get real cold. So it was really hard to really adapt to that condition. Our athletes, we had two athletes. We had our young sprint queen in Naomi London. She's one of the upcoming and hot things on the block right now, following the step of Julian Alfred. And Dylan, we had Dylan Edwin. She run the 200. Both of them take part in the 200. Naomi had a baptism of fire, Mike, because the condition was real cold that day, real cold. I mean, the first big scheme for her on a big scale. She just 17 years old. The first time in that big event, big atmosphere, so to speak. Um, she when the race start, we had a false start once, we had another false start twice, we had another false start thrice, and she out there in that cold weather. When some of the athletes was in the long tights, in the long sleeves, she were in her small little outfit, and she complained that the cold was real cold. Her leg was kind of cramping up. It was a good experience for her. We had just wanted her to test. It was really a test for her because our natural qualifiers who already qualified for Paris in Julian Alfred and Michael Joseph, they didn't come here to take a rest because it's off season. They were running on the circuit for the whole year, so they take a rest. The coaches advised them to sit out for this game. A lot of countries are the top gunners, the Jamaicans and all of the top countries are the athletes who sat out for this game. So this game were more like a second string. We didn't see all the big names out here. Everybody's off season, so they take the break to prepare themselves for the big one, which is the Olympic. It was a good outing for us. It was a good experience for the athletes. They all went back. So right now it's just Luke here with us, waiting for the closing ceremony on Sunday, where we're doing the closing ceremony, get our flag bearer, and then we all leave out on Monday back to our respective destinations. So it's a very good experience out here. I witnessed a few other sports around. We had over 4,500 to 6,000 athletes out here. A lot of countries came with huge delegation, like the people like the Brazilians, is the big numbers here. Canada, America, big numbers out there. Peru, Chile is the hosts, big teams. So all in all, I
Well,
think it was a very good experience, very good experience for the athletes who came here to the games.
Mr. Christopher, so the question I want to follow up on then is, yes, I could understand Brazil and some of the South American countries because they border in Chile, so it's, in some instances it's easy for them to get there, but whether it's flying or even by driving. But
Yes.
as a chef de mission, are you concerned that even from the Caribbean perspective, that we're not sending large delegations of our competitors to participate in an event as the Pan American Games, where it is used as a qualifier for the Olympic Games?
Well, it's not really sending large delegation. Large delegation comes with funding. Pana would normally give you a certain amount of funding, but then if you want to bring large delegation, if you want to take the complimentary spots, and you want to bring large team like in boxing, you could have just come either you qualify or qualify not, because there was a qualification for Paris. It's very costly right now to fly around the region. To get down here is 3 hours from my home. 3.5 hours to Miami, and then another 8 hours down from Miami into Chile. You mentioned it right. The South American countries close by, like the Colombia and the Ecuador and Brazil, Venezuela, those countries around the area, it's easier for them to get across here. They come with large numbers because it's more or less a South American thing here for them with the Pan Am Games. They come in with large numbers, hundreds of athletes in different disciplines. While we focus on a few disciplines, they have various disciplines. They have hockey, they have water polo, they have diving. These other countries take part in more discipline than us in the Caribbean. We don't really take part in some of those disciplines. Guyana, I know, normally would come with a hockey team and rugby and different things, but they didn't come this time. It's more track and field. You have soccer of some teams, some countries come here with football players, and you know those countries who take part in all these different sport. They have large numbers. The Caribbean mainly track and field and boxing. There's the areas you will really see the Caribbean, so you wouldn't see large numbers. And then again, as I mentioned, funding is very hard for the Caribbean countries. In the Caribbean, the governments and the private sectors, the business owners and the business entrepreneurs, they don't really see sport as important as we as sports administrators and sportsmen and sportswomen would see it. In other countries, you have big endorsements and you have people spend a lot of money in sports. But we in the Caribbean, we have to be running here, there, and begging for money here and there to prepare ourselves and get ourselves ready. The Olympic committees will try to see what they can do, but there's only so much the Olympic Committee and even the Ministry of Youth and Sports will get the least money in the budgets for running the sporting organization. In my island, you have 20 national federation, and then when the ministry get those small little pool of money, the least money in the budget, it's hard for the minister and the ministry to really take care of all those 20 federations and even take care of the youth and sports councils and the different things around the island. When you see other ministries like the Ministry of Tourism will get a big chunk of money, you will see other ministries getting big money, sports get the least. And I keep saying all the time to the governments and keep preaching in my island as a person who speak out that they need to invest in sports. They need to put more money in sports because a lot of these government business houses get a lot of concessions and they make all the money and they don't really put back anything into sports. That's why you see sometimes you find the youths them feel like they're being neglected and they would go into crime and they would go into different other things. We lose some strong young men. When you look at the murder rate is going up, and then when you look at the level of youths that dying, is all these youths going to be playing sports because sports save lives, sports create champions and better citizens. So sports in the Caribbean need a really microscopic view from the leaders, from the leaders. I mean, Jamaica is a country that would come with a large team, even though they didn't came here with that large amount of team, but athletes. But when you look at Jamaica, they pay a lot of emphasis into sports. That's why you see they could win a lot of medals, and they have some of the top athletes coming out of that. Please don't mind what you say about Jamaica, but they very, very, very serious about sports. And when the other islands and other countries just using sports as we call a scapegoat, they just say they're playing sports, but they're not paying no emphasis in the sports. That's why our youths is going astray. So Mike is a serious situation with the Caribbean when it comes to sports and the youths,
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because the General Secretary of the Grenada Olympic Committee, who is also that's Vida Bruno Victor, who is
she's out
also a
here.
former, and she's also a retired permanent secretary. She made the comment actually at it was a CANOC meeting in Barbados some weekends ago, where she says that basically what you're saying, that when it comes to the budgets, especially, and not just Grenada, she was speaking about Caribbean countries, and they want to cut back on funding. Most times sports is a budget that they'll first ask to chop, you know. So
Yes.
I think you're making the same point. Let me welcome my co-host from Toronto, Rudian Silvan. Rudian, good afternoon. You listen to Mr. Christopher. Do you have anything you want to ask him specifically as it relates to what he said about the Pan Am Games?
Oh, most definitely. Mr. Davis, it's good to see you. Michael, is always a pleasure. I'm just here at a Ontario Cross Country Championship right now. So when you see the whole event, you hear the noises because I think the junior boys race just went off. One of the things I wanted to you said a few things, and Michael said it clearly. We said it on the show many times. Sports are always the thing to cut, and you make it clear that sports build a nation, and we see what's happening in the European countries. Some of the European countries cannot move without sports in it, without football. They need that. The English and the Spanish countries in them, because that's where funding come in and build that country. One of the things that I truly still see is that when you see the track and field happening at this time, do you think it is bad, or the timing is wrong? Because track and field, like the season, you don't get competition in November. We're in November now. So is it, we cannot exclude the rest of the events, but should track and field be at a different time if it happened to be whole at this time of the year? Because like you said, it is cold to some of the athletes who are not accustomed to this type of weather. You mentioned about your athlete who was pretty cold. And then you're talking about maybe a third string team you're sending. You know, it's not even a second string. Sometimes it's more third string team you're sending.
Right.
And a lot of athletes will say no, they wouldn't want to come because they're in the preparation season now, especially in an Olympic season. Nobody wants to come out there and get hurt. And if they do come out, I mean, you cannot pick and then pick again. You know, you're going to pick too many times to compete in major events like that. At the same time, you know, when you go to the Pan Am Games, it's good for your country. You know, you get medals and so forth. It's build your country in terms of funding. But at the same time, it is hard to get athletes out at the time. So I just think the timing is wrong, especially for track and field. But the rest of the events can continue on. But track and field is kind of challenging. And then you don't get your good athletes. You don't get your good athletes. And then you're talking about someone training all year round, and they constantly be doing speed. So there's no more base training. Oh, you go to base and then come back into speed. So it's very challenging now for the athletes and them. So to me, I think that this year was not a mistake, but maybe track and field could have been at a different time, separate from everything else, because of if you want quality, if you want good quality, it has to be done at a time when you can get the athletes to come out.
Definitely, you're so right, because the point you made there, a lot of the chefs and persons on the ground saying the same exact thing you just said there. A lot of the athletes, they want to chance themselves to come out here when they get injured. They don't want to come out here just in front of Olympics who already qualify. The management of the athletes by the coaches and some of the federations in the country, they were very using a microscopic view at that particular scenario you just painted there. So it's third string, and even fourth string, if we could say that, if we're playing guitar, you know, they won't see some of the top athletes out there. And even the times, when you look at the times of the clock, they're running real slow. And the track itself, one of my athletes, Dylan Edwin, said the track was very slow track, you know. So I think Chile organized this year for themselves to really win this Pan Am Games, to try to see the best that they can do, because you know a host always try to set any tournament to suit themselves. It's their condition, so it suits them. So I won't say it's match fixing, but it's fixing of the match, a kind of way that they can benefit and enjoy what's going on. You know what I'm saying?
No, most definitely. And again, like I said, it's like, I mean, I speak to Glenroy a few weeks before they head out to the Pan Am Games, and the same thing you were saying. He said we didn't even have a full. They have guys going to compete, but you're not going to get your top guys going to compete. It's not going to happen because, like I said, people are they already who qualified for the Olympics already don't want to get in that chance. Some of them are getting ready for the indoor season, and then you go outdoors and then go back indoors. It's a bit too much. But at the same time, we don't have a say of who hosts the games. It's just who get it at the time. Like you said, not match fixing, but it's fixing the match.
Yes.
So, but at the same time, it's also good for other athletes to get the opportunity to be in a national team. It's also good for the athletes to get and prove that they have some sort of value in the sport still. And they could make a name for themselves.
Right.
However, the challenge is still there because, and you have to prep. Like in the Caribbean, if you know when it is, you have athletes and you say, I want you to get ready for this. So you kind of have that too because you can't send everybody to the World Championship, which was the big thing this summer. But then you say, hey guys, I want you second string or third string to prep for the Pan Am Games. So you kind of put them in a position to say there is a big game for you, but it's later on. So do your training based on that. So there is the give and take sometimes. So yeah.
Because not cutting you, but what really transpired with athletics, there were a cutoff point. When you say the cutoff point is 24, 25. When all those top athletes drop out, they start to bring up those at the bottom, start to come up. That's why my girl Naomi, she come up, and Dylan come up, but he was way off far away. He would never make the cut. So when the big athletes drop out of the pool, the lower ones then with certain timing comes up, and then they kind of make the qualification athletics. But the athletics is not what we normally would expect. I didn't see a real full big stadium like what you would see at the Olympics or even the last Pan Am Games in Lima, Peru. I was the chef down there, and it was different. The condition was different. Massive crowds, everywhere you go, you could feel the buzz. But this one here, you didn't really see that. You don't really see that kind of zoom, Yeah.
Michael, I'll be back on with you in a few minutes. Just at a race because I'm the finish line guy. So let me go and get this race done, and then once it's done, I can pop back on. All right.
Yeah, man.
Okay, then.
Respect,
Thank you very much. Okay, then. So that's Rudy and Sylvan there in Toronto. Just giving a little feedback there. As you know, there's a cross country taking place in Toronto. So he's actually on spot. But getting back, as we will go into the whole issue of boxing momentarily. But Mr. Christopher, as chef de mission and I've attended about 6 Olympic Games before, and Pan American Games, Commonwealth Games, World Championships. So I understand some of the intricacies and things that do happen at those things. But what are some of the challenges as a chef de mission that you would have faced and probably common to the Caribbean delegations at the Pan American Games?
Well, a lot of the Caribbean countries were complaining of the weather. There's number one. Every morning, we have chef meetings where we go in and analyze the day before and report the challenges that faced us. 7 a.m. every morning, you have to get up, which is 6 in the Caribbean, and brace that cold weather to get to the chef mission hall to report what's going on. One of the main problems we were getting here a lot is the water situation. The cooling system, the heating system, very poor. You will be bathing in a little warm water, and then it just switch to cool, and that could cause pneumonia because I get catch a couple of days ago bathing, and then the water just gets cold, and never get back hot, and I had to rinse off because I was all soaked up, and for that whole day my chest was in a mess. My nose was running. That's one of the serious challenges out there. You have to dress properly. You have to put on sometimes 2-3 layers because we in the Caribbean, we're not accustomed to this kind of weather out here. The village is a brand new village that was built. We were here in April when they were building it, but it's not quite complete because you could still hear jackhammers in your ears. You could still hear people trying to make things happen. Our office space, which should have been down at the bottom of our Tower 5, is not even complete. So we're working from up in our space. So it was challenging for the Chilean organizers, for President, the president of Panam, who is a Chilean, and the organizers, and even those persons who were running the event. It wasn't an easy road for them. I feel kind of sad for them because it wasn't easy. The weather was warm, and then, as I mentioned, the other few obstacles. But we rallied. Caribbean people, we would complain, but then we would still work, and as you would say, we would roll with the punches. We roll with the punches.
Yeah.
We roll with the punches. And
But let me ask. Normally, they will say that the Pan Am Games is almost a forerunner for hosting the Olympic Games because of the number of events, like how Brazil hosted the Pan Am Games before, and then they were able to hold the Olympics because of the number of events that it's catered for under the Pan Am Games. It's like the Olympics of the Pan American region.
Like
do you think that Chile is ready to host an Olympic Games?
I think they will need more time. I think the time frame, they get cut with the time frame. If there's to host a thing like Olympics, I think it would be climbing the mountains of Mount Jimmy, climbing the pitons in St. Lucia. This was a trial for them. They tried their best, but Olympic is a different kettle of fish. Olympics, you can't miss. You can't miss with Olympics because the numbers is more. The country itself have to be ready. The finance for hosting something like Olympics, like in Rio. Rio was ready. It was really ready, and we see even drivers was getting lost in Rio. Or they can't even find where they're going. That was one of the only challenge I think I had down in Rio. But Rio was huge in 2019. I don't think Chile really ready to host Olympics. They aren't ready to host Olympics.
You said Rio. Is it Lima you're referring to in 2019?
No, 2016. Sorry, 2016.
2016. Yeah, 2016.
Rio 2016. Sorry. 2016 was Rio. 2019 was Lima. And then 2023 is here is Santiago, Chile.
Santiago. Right. Now, getting on to the crux of the matter, has to do with boxing. And as indicated, you're not just the chef de mission of the St. Lucia delegation at the Pan American Games, but you're also the president of the St. Lucia Boxing Association. You expressed some concerns about the readiness and preparation of some of the boxers participating in the Pan American Games. You use the example of, my country folk, one from Grenada, for example. Let's get to the bottom of that in its sense. In general, what would you consider in terms of readiness or preparation of boxers for a tournament at the Pan American Games?
Right now, boxing is the bastard sport of the world. There are a battle going on between the eagle and the bear, right? And that spin off, and it affecting the region. It's affecting boxing on the whole in the world because it have people thinking they don't know what is the right, what is the left. Because IOC throwing our boxing governing body, which is AIBA, under the bus, under the train, under the bed, under the river. We don't know where we stand. They're treating us like the bastard sport of the world. We change one president, we bring another president, they don't like that president, we bring another president, they don't like that president. And eventually, what they did, they suspend us from Olympics. So, not boxing, because they want the athletes to box, but they suspend our national federation, AIBA, and there now is running the boxing. They have a task force where they're using to come at these games and dealing with the boxing, because they want to see the athletes. They don't want to damage the athletes, but they're damaging the federation. We had an election, but 2 or 3 elections in 1 year. This is history. We had one, we went back. We had another one, then we go back again. They said the process wasn't right. They recall it. Then all the delegates said we don't want. We put him back our president unanimously, and after that, problems. They asked for certain changes from our president and our international body, which the president tries best to do, and everything they do is never satisfied. They're never satisfied. They're never satisfied. But this problem starts from Rio 2016, where they said was match fixing, which was caused by the previous president, which was a member of IOC, a big member in IOC, and one of a good friend of the president right now of IOC. He campaigned for the president of IOC, but he got voted out, and then we had another president came in. Our president right now is a Russian, and you know people treat Russian right now. They rush at you. They treat Russian. They don't. They move the goalposts, keep moving the goalposts, you know. And he tried his best to see what he can do. And what this president did, he clean up all this jiggery-poogery that was going on in boxing. Because the jiggery-poogery was caused by that president who came and CK who. Those is the one who caused all the jiggery-poogery and all the problems and fixing and this and that and all the problems. They caused it. And he was a member of IOC. So IOC was sheltering him. But after he get voted out and then the Russian take over, they're running down the Russian because he was instilled in IOC. But now he's out of IOC because he had to come out of IOC because he's the one who dig the hole. He's the one who dig the hole and put us in the hole. So now this president now trying his best to see what he can do for us, but then now it's a problem. Then here come the beer. Here come the beer. Right?
So
here come the Eagle. The Eagle now form another organization called World Boxing, who want to take over from AIBA because AIBA gets suspended. And then you have a lot of people, pigeons. You know, pigeons flock and eagles fly alone. So some of us now is eagles who fly in alone, and then we have another set is pigeons. So the eagle mixing up with the pigeons, and then you have what you have to call a dissemination, a disconnect, no unity, and it affecting the boxing. That's why now we end up where the question you just asked, preparation. The preparation is not good because we're not together like how we were before. Like when we used to have Cabo back in the days, and the region was a dominant force to reckon with. We don't have that again. Everybody trying by themselves. Guyana one side, Grenada one side, St Lucia one side, USVI one side, Jamaica one side, and everybody trying to do it by themselves. And they're failing miserably. It shows up here. All of what was going on around the world, this was what break the camel back. It showed up here. All the Caribbean countries was dismal, shameful. Only Guyana had a couple bouts because you know they have Alicak, they have Amsterdam. These guys, some of the seniors who's still around shows up and try to, but they can't get where they want to be because the preparation and the finance again, we don't have that. And when you come against the Cubans, you come against even the Cubans. They look second string out there. They get take a lot of licks, and you know the Cubans normally don't take licks like that. But when you watch Dominican Republic, you watch Brazil, you watch the Ecuadors, you watch Chile, watch Peru, Argentina, these countries out here show up. You know, they show up. They show up and they dominate. USA, you know, Canada. These countries was more prepared than the Caribbean countries. And then what happened now? The boxers wasn't in the village. The boxers was away by themselves. Who want to come. It's not no qualification to come to this event. Who want to bring the boxers, you pay your own money, you come. And then you stay away from the village. Like the bastard sport, as I mentioned. You go to the sport to see if you could qualify because of the qualification for Paris. And it was a mess. It was a mess, Mikey. It was a mess. I went and watched some of the games, watched some of the bouts because I didn't bring any more my boxers because I have a nursery billing and we don't want to throw our young boxers into this condition if they're not ready because we're billing and we're doing nice in the Caribbean. We're going to work the region, work the Martiniques, work the box with our peers and build these youths because most of my youths are 16, 17, 18. We have some seniors, but my senior wasn't ready. I can't pay thousands of dollars to bring people for a joyride. I'm a kind of administrator. If you're not ready, you're not ready. Go back to the gym and get yourself ready. Because you play football, you play cricket, you play hockey, but you don't play boxing. You fight boxing. You never hear somebody say, let me go and play boxing. You don't play boxing. Because in that square is life and death. And we saw what transpired here. People get knocked down. People don't know where they're at. Fellas get knocked down, you ask them what's your name, and they call their name like them as a Chinese or the Spanish, the language, the different language you're speaking. Blows, punches in bunches out there, Mikey. And we saw a lot of them who weren't ready, were embarrassed out here. And I was really mad about what I saw because you put in the risk of people's children at risk because, as I mentioned, you don't play boxing. And I want the boxing administrators, all of them, a lot of them is on this program because it was shared all about. I think this is one of the most, if you could check what's going on, a lot of them is on the program. I want to hear because some of them even call me and tell me, man, oh, you say it so raw. I say, I have to say it like it is. I can't sugarcoat it. If I sugarcoat it, you're going to keep doing the same thing. You have to prepare your boxers. You have to be ready. You have to know which side you're on. You got to know what you're doing. You know, you don't bring people and just throw them in the ring just to say you bring people to a sport. You don't do that. So that's the problem we had out here, Mike. It was dismal for the Caribbean. We all going home back empty-handed. Those who medals would normally medal and get bronze, we even get copper. We're going back not even with copper, not even quicksilver. Going back empty-handed. All the boxers take licks. Punches in bunches.
So you raise a number of issues there, and it seems as if boxing is facing a crisis. And
not only crisis, boxing is more than crisis.
So how the Caribbean boxing administrators are hoping to ride the tide? How they hoping that this can, because as you said, Paris is just a few months away, and it appears that for the English-speaking Caribbean in particular, the window for qualification for Paris 2024 seems to be a bit smaller now. But going forward, how do Caribbean boxing administrators hope that this crisis in boxing, as we'll say, that global crisis, wouldn't really affect the sport in the Caribbean?
Well, it affected sport already, Mike. Paris would be a miracle to see Caribbean boxers reach up there. We have a few more qualifiers we come around, but those who qualify, it's got to be natural ability, willpower and ability because we're struggling. The Caribbean have to regroup. We have to regroup. We may have our differences because we do have our differences because we see some of them break away already and go on with world boxing. To have a few of them break away. We don't even notify us and say, well, boy, I go in next side, I go in and join this other organization. They break away. You know, they break away because what really happening now, boxing coming like the prostituting boxing right now. This is what people trying to do right now. Now, we have to regroup. We have to build back from the ground. We have to put aside our differences because of these elections and the two sides that fighting, it's a domino effect. It caused some of us in the region who we were body and hugging up and loving up. It's like love and hate. We love and hate right now. What Dennis Brown sing about? And love and hate could never be friend. So we have to regroup. We have to come back together. We have to say, man, we had our differences, but we have to regroup for the sake of the boxers. Because we have a lot of young boxers coming up. In my country, boxing is one of the most wanting sport. All the youths now getting into boxing. I have about 70 something to 80 young boxers in the different areas into boxing. But we building. We have Cuban coach who's doing very good in Viewfort. We have our coach in the Castries area. We went into the prison and give them some equipment. We went to the boys training center. We went to Viewfort. We went to Soufre, and we spread equipment around the island, trying to keep the guys' hands in gloves, not on guns, because we saw what guns is doing. We want to keep the hands in the gloves and not on the guns. We're getting a little support from the ministry, but only so much the ministry can do. Right? It's only so much the ministry could do. Now, all these equipments I spoke about, where it came from our president, where we lobby, myself and Stephen Inval, we lobby for equipments. And they give everybody equipments, thousands of dollars of equipments. I personally receive over about 60,000 US in equipment, and I spread it all around the island for free. Because what he's doing, he building the grassroots. He into grassroots. He make 50,000 US available for the grassroots program, $20,000 for development. He paid for us to come up to the worlds in Uzbekistan, pay accommodation thing. He's spending money on us, but then still they're not giving him a chance to build back the boxing. Now here come this new organization I mentioned, we're trying to form now, and some of the Caribbean leaders, administrators, they don't know where they're at, and are very, very, very disappointed in some of them. They jump ship. They jump ship without even saying the jumping ship. No, you know what you call that? They're very ungrateful. And they know themselves. They know themselves. And it's the weak ones doing that. Most of them who jump in ship, they don't even have boxers. They don't have no development program. They didn't know when last they had election. They don't have no structure. They just there as numbers, but they jump in ship. You know? They're selling the soul. They're selling the soul. Just how Judas sold Jesus for 30 pieces of silver, they're selling themselves for no kind of silver, because where they're going, they won't get nothing. They won't get nothing. Those same people was down here trying to talk to people. They try approaching me down here. I tell them, you see, y'all, I don't want to have no talking with y'all, because y'all only causing more problems in the boxing. You're causing more problems in the boxing. They hope that IOC gonna adopt them as the one who running the boxing, because everybody wanted boxing. Boxing bringing the most income at any sport. And if you check after athletics, it's boxing. The revenue that boxing would bring in, everybody want to control boxing. So this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to prostitute the boxing. So that's the problem we're having right now. And it's a serious problem, and nobody want to speak about it. They're trying to sweep it under the carpet. But they think when they jump ship and they go over there, that all the worries and problems going to go away. They're carrying it with them. They're carrying the baggages, let it go there with the baggages. Who want to jump ship, go jump ship. I know some of my brothers, we ain't jumping ship. We not jumping ship, and I know all who not going to jump ship. Not more of them going to jump ship. Let them keep jumping the ship. They forgot that all of us came down on the same ship from Africa as slaves. They forgot that. We came down on the same ship, but now they don't want to stay on the same ship. They jump in the ship to go on another ship. I don't know if they want to go back to Africa or if they want to go back into slavery, but trust me, Mikey, my head, I have to think about my boxers. I have those guys' life in my hand, the future, and as an administrator, I put in the boxers first. Without the boxers, I don't have an association. So I have to make the right decision that these boxers could benefit for themselves and the family. Because you could imagine when you go out right now, a tournament, gold medal getting 200,000 US, 150,000 US, 100,000. Couple Caribbean guys get 25,000 US the other day at some of these boxing events for bronze medal. 75,000 for silver. The president paying that kind of money. You come into Olympics. Olympics is the biggest game everybody wants to go Olympics. But as the president said, you're going to get a gold medal at Olympics. Yes, you're an Olympian. How much money you get it? The bottom line is money. Because the gold medal ain't bringing you no way. What are giving you? They could buy a house for you. Sometimes you go back home, they even give you no money in your country. But if you go to Worlds now, and you win a gold medal, you get your gold medal, and you get about 300,000 US, you could go back home and try something. We don't want it's gone now where you just in sport for fame. You can get fame, and then a couple of years to go on down the road, you're in shame. Watch how much national sportsmen, and I know you as a man could identify that, did well in sport, and watch the liberty now. Cricketers do well in the game before this 2020 and all these monies coming now. And they're living now, some of them as vagrants on the road. They don't even have a house to live. They're getting sick. They end up broken, pauper. Because you know what? They never get the paper. It's about paper now. It's not about no fame. Who want fame? And then when you're done, you end up with shame. We want paper to take care of the family, take care of the children, take care of the country, see what they can do for the people in the community. Because when you come out of a community as a pauper or a ghetto youth, and you do good, you go back to that to that ghetto, open a nice gym for the kids, do things for the kids, do a feeding program, lift people up instead of push people down. But we can't allow people to just use us. Got some of the politicians doing the same thing. They come behind you, tell you vote for me. When they get in power, they even get no time with you. So when you watch life right now, you got to make the right decision, because you're here now and tomorrow you're gone. People dying like flies now. Life having no meaning to certain people.
All right, let me add a good friend, one who has been on the program before, Mr. Steve Ninval of Guyana. He's a sports director, and he probably can join us. And let me see if I have him. Yeah, yes, he's there. Steve, good afternoon to you. I know you're sitting in the chair as sports director of sports in Guyana, but also as a boxing administrator in the Caribbean. You have been listening to David Sheikh, Christopher, for quite a while. I don't know what you want to say, but my question to you basically, is there a serious crisis of boxing now in the Caribbean? I mean, it appears that there's a global crisis to an extent, but it's really affecting the Caribbean. And is there consensus among Caribbean boxing administrators of the way forward for the sport in the Caribbean?
Mikey, let me just say thank you very much for having me on your program. I know this is my second time that I'm having this on your program. Am I still there?
You're there, Steve. You're there.
Yes. Yes. Thank you very much for having me on the program. I think I'm a little more balanced in my approach to it because of the fact that one, I am the president of I am a vice president of the Olympic Association. I am also the director of sport, and I am the president of the Guyana Boxing Association. If there's a serious crisis in Guyana, in the Caribbean at this time, I would want to say it is not now that there has been a serious crisis. The crisis has been long before. And in my view, this crisis came about because of personalities and people not really having boxing at heart, but having their own personal agenda at heart. And while, there's a cliche that boxing and sport unifies people, on the contrary, in boxing, it has torn us apart. And I don't think that we see, well, when I say we, individual countries see eye to eye on what the issues are, and I don't think that people are comfortable when individual countries speak their mind. I can tell you this. something as simple as having a vote at the AIBA election. Once you say that, and openly, because what Guyana does, we say openly who we are voting for. There's nothing to hide. Trinidad does the same thing. St Lucia, we write and we allow it to be public. This is what we are doing. As soon as you do that, it means that you are on the other side. And people have all of these personal views of your country because you have said, this is where we're going. Now, you never had a chance to sit and discuss, to ask, why are you doing that? Let me see if I should do the same thing. That has not happened. So for me, it's very, very difficult for us to see eye to eye now, between now and the next Olympic. I think that just that it has been broken down from year to year, it will take some time before we can build it up into, maybe it will take another generation, because some people just won't trust others easily anymore. And that's quite fine. But then in order to make things happen too, you have to want to make it happen. You just cannot say, oh, let this happen. And then you have to have a blueprint on how it will happen. I will just want to touch a little bit on what David would have said about the new world boxing and AIBA. Let me tell you this, and I'm speaking for Guyana alone. We have had enough of colonialization. We have had enough of it. We understand that this that is going on in boxing in the world is bigger than us, but we are involved in it. We understand that it is politics at work between two major nations, while we are still consumed by that. And it is very important that our administrators take a panoramic view before we get into the herd mentality. And we're drifting because this one is drifting too. And it's important, Michael, that we ask each and every administrator hard questions, not questions because you are a friend, hard questions. Okay, how long have you been an administrator? What was it in when you got in? Where is it at now? Show me what you have done within the past 6 years as it relates to a developmental plan for your sport. How many people were in it when you got in, and how many do you have now? Those questions, you will be able to gauge what a development is in a territory.
Yeah.
Right? So there are many things that we have to ask ourselves as administrators. Are we doing our best? Is this about me? Is this about my country? Is this about me holding the hand of a friend for the sake of holding the hand for a friend? I will say this, Michael, and in conclusion, it's just like you are what you eat. You cannot throw in kerosene oil in a car and expect to go in the morning and start it and it runs. It will not happen. Just like whatever you put in, that is what you will take out. You will not be able to move. Your problems are not solved because you have moved to another area of the country. That is like a child hiding his face and believing no one can see him. It is equivalent to that. So our problems remain, and until we have mature administrators, those problems will persist. As it is right now, we are at one of our lowest ebb, and it will take maturity to get us out of there. This is not pointing fingers. This is not running down anyone, because as soon as you speak, you hear, oh, you're a traitor, and you are kind of infantile talk. But we have to internalize things, and we have to understand what is best for my country. What is best for my country before for me? What is best for my country? What is best for my boxers? Who put me there as a president? It is the boxers. It is the clubs. And if I'm failing them, then I'm failing the sport. And we have to be asked those hard questions. I would love for you, Michael, or anyone else, to have a discussion whereby we can have all the Caribbean presidents on, not two alone, all the Caribbean presidents, whereby we can sit down and talk face to face to the public. To the public. Listen, in Grenada, Little Grenada, you have two factions in Little Grenada. Fighting for what? Fighting for what? You have not achieved anything as yet, but you're still fighting. Now, imagine when you would have achieved something. What should I expect as a right-thinking person? We should be using our energies, challenging it to make sure that the sport is kept alive. Not that we keep at each other's throat, and because keep that for the ring. Let the fighting be done in the ring. As administrators, we should not be fighting each other. We should be trying to support and make sure that when we have something as little as a Caribbean championship, look across the board, Michael, in the Caribbean. How many people have nurseries? Ask the question. Now, how do you expect in the next 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 years that we're having good elite boxers when there is no nursery across the Caribbean? We are living in hope and we are administrating in hope. And that is a recipe for failure. And that is my conclusion, Michael. And thank you very much for having me on your program.
Just before you leave, Mr. Ninval, I want to ask, the question has to do with, because you're involved in the Olympic committee as well, the Olympic body. And so too, I think, is Mr. Christopher. How do you see that playing off, seen as the IOC has well, I shouldn't say recognized, but has expelled IBA and probably or possibly will give recognition to world boxing? How that is balancing as officials of representing the Olympic Committee and being involved in boxing association that's actually affiliated to IBA?
Well, let me say this. I think that good sense prevail. That is me personally. I think that good sense will prevail. I think sometimes some people try to nudge you to see exactly where you will go or what you would say. At the end of the day, boxing is going to remain a sport in the Olympics. This is my view. That is my view. Now, you may want to choose David to run boxing because David might be easier to control, or David might be easier to carry out whatever you want to do. But at the end of the day, boxing will remain. And David rightly said, boxing after the athletics, boxing is the sport that brings in the most revenue. It brings in the most revenue. So there are many, many different dimensions to this issue and where the issue would have come from and where the issue is going. And while everyone has the right to do and to decide their own destiny, this, for me, should be something that is discussed and not discussed within the Caribbean, because sometimes some people are just gone. I have spoken to one president who was boxing, and he can't tell me up to now why he has. He cannot tell me up to now why he has. But he was called by somebody to lend support, and that is what he did.
The volume just went down a little bit.
No, I think that was on Ninval's part, but I think we're still hearing him. His volume just went down a bit. But so just before you run off then, Mr. Ninval, because I know, and thanks for accepting that there. How do you see, or what do you see the future of boxing as a sport in the Caribbean, and looking from the point of view also of the administration of boxing in the Caribbean, with all that's going on and all that you have said?
I think that we are in a crisis. I think that individually we can come out of that crisis, but as a region, we will remain in it. I think that there is need for some levels of maturity in order for us to get out of that. But then again, the question needs to be asked, do we want to come out of it? Do we want to come out of this mud? I mean, there's some people who are, well, not some people are there are times that you just want to have the cool of the mud, you know, so you would just want to waddle in it because it's cool, it's feeling cool for you there. But then when the sun gets to its highest point and that mud cakes on you, it makes it difficult for you to move. Right? So you have to understand that this, while it may beware of brief delight and lifelong shame, you have to be worried about the brief delight that you may be having now. And then later on, it becomes an issue that you cannot handle. My ending point is that I hope that maturity will rear its head. For me, Guyana will keep doing what it's doing in its corner, and we will have like-minded people. We will rub shoulders with like-minded people because of the fact that giving the olive branch and reaching out, there's a time that comes where the straw will break the camel's back. And you cannot want to have people, you can send an invitation for you to come to the party, but I can't put a gun to your head and say, end up by my party or walk this street with me. That is not what we are about. But in the end, hopefully, with time and with some level of maturity, we'll be able to move in the right direction.
Okay, well, I want to thank you, Mr. Ninval, for coming on and adding a little bit of your perspective on the issue, because it seems as if we'll have to continue that discussion, because I recall about a year, 2 years ago, we spoke about the whole issue of boxing, but it wasn't at that stage as yet. But it seems as if we'll have to go deeper into the whole issue of boxing and boxing administration as it relates to the Caribbean, probably in the near future. Thank you once again, Mr. Ninval.
Thank you ever so much, sir. Thank you ever so much. Have a wonderful day, please.
All right. Thank you very much. So that was Mr. Steve Ninval, who is the president of the Guyana Boxing Association. He's also the director of sports in Guyana. And he came on to give his perspective. He has been involved in boxing for quite a while. And Mr. David Christopher, who's the chef de mission of St Lucia team at the Pan American Games, and also the president of the St Lucia Boxing Association, is still with us just for a few more minutes, although the program to be wrapping up now. But I just want to give him the opportunity to make some parting comments. You have heard Mr. Ninval skates. And I want to hear from you in terms of your parting words now, in terms of the concerns for boxing. And I know you deal specifically, not even though you're an administrator, but your concern is more to do with the development of the sport in the region.
Well, Mike, Steve said it all, because myself and Steve, we're on the same path. Development, the nurseries, bringing people together, trying to unify the leaders, strong ones trying to help the weak ones. And myself hope that maturity could step in and we can really try to build back what we had, what we lost, for the sake of the sport and boxing. It would take a little time to really get back where we wanted to be. But I think few of the countries or the islands and countries have to go back to the drawing board, get themselves together, work on the development program, work on the nursery, and decide exactly where they want to go. Because right now, they're confused. A lot of them is confused because they're watching on both sides. And if we don't come together to make it happen, it will not happen. You spoke about the Olympic Committee. The Olympic Committee still assists boxing. They would not give the federations certain funding. But as long as you're a member of the Olympic Committee, you will get your admin grant, you will get your activity budget. You could still get that from the Olympic Committee, but big funding to, like before, what we would get, that's cut off.
Because boxing still remains an Olympic sport, right?
It's still an Olympic sport. There's one of the top flyers I mentioned, athletics boxing, to the top sport. They will continue to have boxing at Olympic Games. They would continue to support boxers and the athletes to go certain way, but you would not get that big lump sum of money as you used to get before, because Olympic committees around the region were instructed to continue to take care of the athletes. They don't want the athletes to get caught up in the politics that is going on. It's more or less the leadership is the problem. And if that leadership could solve, when it will be solved, we have an extraordinary Congress coming up in Dubai next month, the 9th. All of us will be heading to Dubai at the extraordinary Congress. We'll hear what the president have to say up there, where we going from here, what's gonna happen, where the stands. The case is in cast right now. A ruling is supposed to be coming out anytime now, because after they've been expelled, they send the case to cast. So the Court of Arbitration. So let me see what's gonna come out from there. But I know that AIBA is not giving up. The other side is trying to get themselves as the boxing federation to be adopted by IOC. But IOC would not just take them in like that. You know, there's a politics going on, and we'll see how far, politics, we see where it's going to end. But we in the Caribbean, we have to dig deep. We have to bury the hatchets. We have to start to get back together and love one another. As Steve said, a lot of people would not trust certain people, because back in the days of slavery, when you sick, when the master sick, the slaves would say, "We sick." You see, so some of them still have the slave mentality, and they don't want to come out of that kind of realm. They want people to do everything for them. They don't want to do things for themselves, and that's why we're failing. That's why you're calling the division. I think right now on the table, there's a consensus to get back together, but let's see where we're going to go and how quick it could happen. But honestly speaking, being a crisis, a deep crisis, and the crisis is shown in the ring, we have to continue with our Caribbean Championship. We have to continue with our Schoolboy Championship, which Guyana hosts. We have to continue with our OECS Championship. We got to go back to our Creole Championship. We have to do invitational, different countries hosting boxing and inviting other countries. We have to go back to that kind of realm and leave out all these big events we're trying to spend thousands of dollars to go to. Let's work around the region, build back our boxers, give our boxers boxing time, let it develop the experience amongst themselves, invite probably some of the Spanish-speaking countries who have strong boxers to come and box with us, and build ourselves from home. Dance a yard before we try to dance abroad. That's what we have to do right now.
Wow. Skates, it seems as if I will have to invite you back to the program, because Skates seems to have a lot of, as you'll say, a lot of lyrics, But no, I think it's what is needed more so than ever. And I thought Mr. The president of the NACAC Athletics, made that point regarding athletics. But I think what is really needed in the Caribbean is a discussion on sports in general, okay? We need to have a discussion of sports and this way forward. And you made the point for boxing in particular, in terms of, and I thought about it some time ago. Why not, strengthen the Caribbean Boxing Championship League or whatever it is, boxers in the Caribbean, boxing among themselves, as you say, inviting some of the stronger nations like Cuba and probably the Dominican Republic, who have Puerto Rico, who have strong boxing programs, as inviting them to participate in the programs and things like that. So, but it appears that there's a lot to be done, and if you're not careful, you may lose sight of the big picture in terms of the development of our regional boxers. And, I'm hoping and I'm wishing you folks all the success. I saw that our good friend, the president, long-standing administrator of sports in the Caribbean, Fortuna Rose on the program. She said, great to see you, Shakes, hardworking leader and great driver for the sport of boxing in St. Lucia. So, Skates, once again, I want to thank you very much for being part of the program, for accepting the invitation. And as I said, hopefully I can invite you again sometime in the very near future to speak not just about boxing, but to speak about sports in general.
Thank you very much. Anytime. And I hope that most of the administrators who were tuned in to the program learned something or take away something out of the program when it comes to managing and administrating the sport, because that's the area that we're lacking. We have a lot of weak administrators who don't want to call a spade, and administrators who just want to see follow the leader, like the brown girls in the ring are going wrong in a circle. We got to move away from that, and we have to stand up for the athletes, because as I mentioned before, without the athletes, we don't have association. Who are we going to lead? If Stevie Wonder or Ray Charles could see what's going on, why me and you can't see what's going on, Mikey? You could bring Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles to see what's going on around, and they would see, and they're blind. So why we can't see what's going on? Stevie and Ray seeing. So why me you can't see?
Thank you very much, Mr. Christopher. All the best. Your last few days in Santiago. For just to let you know that the closing ceremony is scheduled for Sunday, as he indicated, in Santiago. Today is the last day of competition in various sporting disciplines, and then they have the closing ceremony on Sunday, and most of the competitors and participants, they fly out of Santiago on Monday. Thank you once again, and all the best, sir.
It's a pleasure, and let's do it again.
Okay then, you no problem.
Respect.
All right then.
Respect.
Yeah. Okay, so David Christopher, the chef de mission of St. Lucia, and also the president of the St. Lucia Boxing Association, our guest on the program this weekend. Folks, enjoyable program, no doubt, and always a pleasure having them. Lots of comments on the message board. Folks, you can go back and read it. Yes, Toro, I got your message, and congratulations to your tennis player, no doubt. But folks, you can go back and read the comments on the message board on the Facebook link. There are a couple of comments there that you probably want to get in as well. Thank you very much, folks. All the best, and hopefully you join us for another program come next Sunday. But just reminding you that the time zone, right? So the time, you have the changing of the time on Sunday. So it means that our program next week will actually start at 12 noon Eastern time, and which will be 1 o'clock Eastern Caribbean time. So that's just a note there, but we'll get some more information about it. So because, we've fallen back 1 hour on Sunday. Okay then? So thank you very much for being part of the program, and I hope to see you next week, God's willing. Until then, do have yourself a pleasant